Today on the Idiot's Guide, is punctuality a thing of the past? Why a generation of young people are redefining the idea of timeliness, and they don't care if it bothers you. I'm your host, Adam Richardson, aka the Profit Hacker, and I'm joined by the man in charge, Mr. Joe Haslam. Welcome to the Idiot's Guide. In an effort to communicate why timeliness still matters, or punctuality, I don't understand this. Maybe it's me, maybe something about this, but I like to be on time. I think it's important. I think it matters. When there is an expectation, I'm going to meet somebody for coffee, I'm going to go on time, or I have to be part of a shift. I'm going to go to work. I should be on time, if not earlier than on time. Okay. I guess, that I don't think I'm alone in that thinking that that's important.
Yep.
But I think that I am maybe an older generation when it comes to that thinking, because nowadays I don't feel like it's as important to.
Yeah, I think the younger generation sees time a little bit more fluidly than previous generations have seen it.
Okay. So if you're on time, you're late.
Yep.
Okay. I was taught that. Sounds like you were taught that. I'm prior service military, so I think that kind of stems from that. But also, even before that, my family, my immediate family wasn't military service, but my mom's a military brat. Her grandfather or her dad was in the Air Force. And so he was very militant about things, timeliness. But I want to say that it matters to me. It's so crucial.
Well, I think what it comes down to when you're talking about punctuality and timeliness, it is about respecting the other person.
Yeah.
It's showing respect for your employer, showing respect for whoever you're meeting up with. So I do appointments and I try to make sure I'm always on time.
I know we get into a conversation and you're like, wait, what? Bye. And
yeah. I'll ask you, what's the time? Okay, I've got like 5 minutes. And then I'll ask 10 minutes later, oh, I'm out the door and I'm over to the call. And I hate
it's because it only happened yesterday. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. I hate being late. Now, sometimes it happens. Sometimes, in business, things happen. You've got, we were in a meeting talking about,
planning.
We were talking about topic ideas. We were doing a lot of different stuff for that, and lost track of time. And so I was late to that. Things happen for that. And so there is a little bit of fluidity in being on time, especially if you know someone. If I've got a brand new client, I'm on time.
Yeah.
I'm early because I need to make sure that that's the case. Once I get to know them and we've got a little bit more fluid situation, the punctuality isn't as important, 2-3 months into the client dynamic. And then it's like, okay, they've had things happen where they've been late. I've had things happen where I've been late. And so it's a mutual understanding of, okay, we're all business people. We understand things happen.
Yeah.
And there's no lack of respect there because it's an understanding. It's a mutual understanding. But when there's not a mutual understanding, that's a problem. You need to make sure that you are on time because it shows respect.
I was watching this movie last night and, I think this being too casual about time and not being aware of what it's doing, I think your point of respect, it really plays a big role in this. But the movie, it was a military movie and it came down to the wire, intense. I was on the edge of my seat watching this going oh my gosh. and like literally came down. There were like 5, 4, 3, and then stopped. Okay. So like it's one of those like everyone dies or someone gets this, to stop before that happens. And it was really, really good. It was really intense and I liked it, but it was one of those moments that I'm like, timeliness, punctuality, that matters. Like if you are late, you aren't paying attention to this, you're doing something else that just sucks time, like then you're not respecting the things around you that are counting on your timeliness.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, it's just a sign of respect. And
Respect.
the converse to that is being late and being significantly late shows your disrespect
Yeah.
for someone. So it's not just showing respect by being on time. By being late, you're showing your disrespect, that you actively do not respect someone else's time.
I also think though, like, I'm part of, I've mentioned this in the past, but DAV, okay? And we meet and it's a whole bunch of grumpy old people. And like, other than me, I don't, my kids will call me an old guy, but
You're just a grumpy middle-aged guy.
middle-aged. Yeah. I'll take middle-aged from you. That's fair.
Still grumpy, just middle-aged grumpy.
So like on the other side of that, the other end of it, like there are military individuals. So their thinking is preparedness, readiness, all of those sorts of things. So, we have our meetings Saturday morning. We meet at a restaurant and, they open at a particular time. Technically they open at 9. Well, they open the doors for DAV to come in and get ready and all that stuff at 8:30. Okay. We have individuals that know that we're supposed to, like, the leadership wise for the line officers will come in and they'll get stuff ready. But then regular attenders of the meeting will get there at like 8:15 and be like, why aren't you letting me in? Why can't you? And I've had to have a conversation with the management and put this out to the DAV chapter. Guys, it's not respectful to come in thinking, well, I'm on time if I'm this early. I was like, 45 minutes early is unhealthy.
Right.
Okay. Like if you are pressing an expectation that's unrealistic against somebody else in an effort to be timeliness or to be timely, like you're actually being the same thing as somebody showing up 45 minutes late.
Right. Because it's disrespecting so someone's going to have to be there to open up. That's their job, their work. But if you're expecting them to be there way earlier, you're disrespecting their personal time.
Right.
And that also is not good.
Right.
Punctuality is you show up 5 minutes early. That's what I've always told. If you're on time, you're late, you're there 5 minutes early.
Yeah.
And so if you're there 5 minutes early, that's good. On time, that's good. 5 minutes late, that's okay. Anything in that range. 5 minutes is kind of my limit. If I'm more than 5 minutes late, then I did not show up on time. If I'm within 5 minutes, okay, I'm okay with that. I may have gotten caught in a lie. May have, something happened in an appointment. Someone asked an extra question, something like that. Things happen to be 5 minutes late. That's okay. It's not great. I still wouldn't say you're punctual, but 5 minutes late, that's okay.
Right.
5 minutes early is ideal. On time, and then 5 minutes late. After that,
I think one of the things is like getting there on time, doing these things and throughout the day, meeting those moments is kind of like this momentum, kind of like our channel. Channel is like, we're gaining momentum and
transitions.
And it's all thanks to you, listener, or watcher, whatever you want, viewer, listener, watcher, all of them. Yes, you, one person. But we're not
we
done.
Have the watcher.
We're not done
listening
yet.
To this?
Yes, Let's keep the momentum going strong by subscribing and inviting others to join the excitement. Together, we'll make waves. I want to talk about Domino's and Golden Corral.
Okay.
So you had mentioned something. I'm gonna mention a little bit about Golden Corral, mainly for the sake that that is where we meet for the DAV meeting, and so I know the employees that are expected to be there so early because the DAV members are expecting them to be there earlier than normal, disrespecting their personal time, but it doesn't matter to them. Those employees are like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. Like, you can show up, I won't unlock the door, and and but at the same time, like, those employees have they're all young. Well, the staff that handle the front end or the cooking staff, all of those, there's not really this urgency to get there even on time. Like, 5 minutes late, okay. 20 minutes late, it's without letting anybody know that's now you're affecting your coworkers, you're affecting the function of the facility.
Yeah, if you're going to be 15 minutes late, let someone know. And if you let them know, okay, something happened, this is going on. Okay, now you're punctual again because you let someone know that there are circumstances beyond your control. That's punctuality. You let someone know and you're going to be late. Okay, within reason. If you're going to be, much longer than that, you're still out of line.
So, okay, so Domino's, you work with Domino's employees, and with those employees, you get a chance to kind of witness this extreme contrast between middle-aged punctuality versus young people's punctuality.
You say that
high school age.
It's really interesting.
I can't say middle-aged because punctuality, my wife is not punctual whatsoever.
This last week, and that's why we're talking about Domino's, is this last week there were some issues with some serious punctuality problems. And I'm a very happy-go-lucky person, and people at the store noticed how annoyed I was at what was going on. I mean, it is unusual for me to not be positive and upbeat. It's happened a couple times, but it's unusual for me. And so this last week there was an individual who, and I have a level of integrity that I have to make sure. So my intent in Domino's, for those of you that are maybe new to the channel, so I've got my main job and then Domino's is my side hustle. I want to eventually buy a franchise with Domino's. And so you have to work there as a certain level of employee for a certain number of time, meet certain requirements in order to buy a franchise. You can't go just like Taco Bell or Kneaders or anything like that. Just go and buy a franchise.
You have to know what you're in for.
Exactly. You have to have worked there. You have to meet Domino's exacting standards, meet these requirements, which I think is actually great.
Oh yeah.
For people who are looking to buy into the franchise that aren't already employees, it requires you to have that level of humility of working a job at Domino's. You have to be the one slinging the pies in order to buy a franchise. I think it's a great model. I wish all other franchise restaurants required the same thing. But, I have a level of integrity that if someone's not there, if the store is extra busy, if anything's happening, I am there until everything is resolved. If I'm scheduled to get off at say 8:00, but it's super busy, I'm not going to go to the manager and say, hey, it's 8:00, let me out the door. The young people that work there, some of them are really good, but some of them will say, hey, it's 8:00. I don't care that it's busy. I'm off shift. And it's really annoying for that. But this last week, there was an individual who 4 days, 4 shifts in a row, showed up late. And not just 15 minutes late. He showed up, the shortest that he was late was an hour late to his shift.
Ugh.
One day he was 3 hours late to his shift. And 2 other days he was 2 hours late to his shift. And he starts late in the evening and then he takes over and then he closes the store. But I had to be there to make sure there were enough drivers. because I'm a delivery driver for Domino's. And so to make sure that there were enough delivery drivers, I had to stay for those 2 hours.
So
in order to make sure that we met the delivery times and all that. And this individual, he's not young, he's 30.
okay.
And he was significantly late. And then later another day, I was doing the closing and someone was supposed to be there till 11 o'clock. Well, 10 o'clock came around and he's like, I'm too tired to stay. I'm going home. And this guy's older than me. And so it's a matter of, where is that level of integrity and punctuality to say, yeah, I have a job, I have a responsibility, I'm going to be there on time?
Well, I think one of the things, like in this sense, is what is a good grace period? Because I think being lenient for even 1 hour is too lenient.
Yeah.
You know, unless you own the franchise, and even then, you're not respecting the other people around you in that sense. But if you own the franchise, okay, like technically you could probably do what you want a little bit. I would say that it would come back to bite you if you do treat people that way.
Yeah, even if you own a franchise, if you're working as an employee, you're still an employee. You have an obligation to follow the rules that you expect of others.
Right.
I mean, one of the most important business rules that I follow is you don't expect anything out of your employees that you would not be willing to do yourself. It's just as simple as that. If I expect my employees to go and clean a toilet, I better be comfortable cleaning a toilet and have done it. And that's an important thing for me. A lot of people feel like, you know, I'm superior because I'm the entrepreneur. I'm the business owner. I don't have to do that stuff. Well, no, you don't have to do that stuff, but you better be willing to do it. You better know what it's like to go and clean that toilet after someone's used it that makes it really disgusting.
Yeah.
And because that's what it means to be an entrepreneur. That's what it means to be a business owner, a good boss.
I think on the grace period aspect of it too is, let's say somebody is confronted by, for being late, and, it's a consistent thing. They're, even if it's just a little bit late, like, if it's every day I'm 5 minutes late, it's an adjustment in your time you leave. That's literally all that is. So there's things to make sure you're respecting that, so that you give yourself enough time. And that's common knowledge, I guess. Yeah. Oftentimes it's not typically, performed, Yeah. But I think about this. My wife got into some hot water a little bit ago, and it was because she was, averaging a couple minutes here and there pretty consistently every day. And so, they approached her and let her know, like, that we need to make some adjustments. And she did, but then a ways down the line, that behavior was corrected, those sorts of things. But that doesn't eliminate, other instances where traffic comes into play,
right? Or
you had to make a stop somewhere and do something company related that might mean that, like, you have to stop, whatever it is. Okay.
Yeah.
But those things, if you're communicating, like we said, if you're communicating, you're still within the bounds of punctuality, but I think in that grace period is one of those things where you're like, what happens if you stop giving grace whatsoever? And that's kind of where, that situation happened. Is it just kind of, they didn't have any more. They let what was in the past stay that way. And that was the rest of the time. There's no tolerance.
Yeah. And punctuality is not about being perfect. Punctuality is about showing respect.
Right.
And so there are things that happen. So one of my big pet peeves, okay, is people on cell phones in the car. Okay. Now, I still do it if I'm at a stoplight. If there's something going on, I shouldn't do this, but I'll pull out my phone and do something. I try not to. I try to make sure my phone is in its holder so that I'm not tempted to just pull it out of the cup holder and do something with it. But another pet peeve of mine, and so these all go together, is when you are in a left turn lane and there are 2 lanes, you better be in the lane that you need to finish in.
Yeah.
Because there will be a lot of people, this lane's really long, this one's really short. Still go into this one, and then you go through the turn, and then they cut everyone off to get to the far right to turn right after turning left. And that really annoys me. Well, I've gotten to the point, there's a road that going to the Domino store, that this is the case. There are 2 left-hand turn lanes, and the one on the right is always full. The one on the left is always short. And historically, I will always go in the longer one because that's respectful. I want to turn right. That's the one I'm going to be in. You turn left and then you turn right after turning left into somewhere. But lately, I've been having to get into the shorter left lane and then end up crossing across in front of people because there is someone inevitably. This is about 70% of the time. And I've calculated, me in spreadsheets, I keep track of all this. 70% of the time, someone does not move forward when the light turns green because they're on a phone.
Oh, yeah.
And so that makes me late. And because one of the big things, you should be leaving extra early in order to be on time. I could leave extra early and still have to sit through 2 or 3 lights before I finally get through there because someone is sitting on a phone. It's not because of traffic lights. It's not because of anything that I can control. It's because of someone being stupid, sitting on a cell phone, not paying attention to when that light turns green, and they sit there until the light turns red. And so now I am stuck for an extra 5-10 minutes in a left turn lane. Yes, 10 minutes, it's happened. 10 minutes in a left turn lane because people aren't paying attention.
Especially on the road that we're nearby. Redwood Road is the name of it. And my kids make fun of this because I have the curse of red lights. Like every single time I go down this road, I hit red lights. And so I literally have to, depending on what I'm doing, I have to consider what time I'm leaving on this road. If I'm taking this road any direction, I have to consider the time because I know I will hit red lights everywhere. My wife is totally different. She'll get on this road and just do. And she's a speed demon. Like she's hauling. I do too. I go pretty fast, but it doesn't matter. I go pretty fast and I still hit every red light possible. Like, and just in case, like one red light's like, just kidding, we're red again. I'm like, it's so bad. My kids laugh because they get in the car with me and I'm on my way and I'm like, red,
And the big problem with that is because of people's actions, you may not be able to be punctual. And that's where the grace period comes in.
Yes.
Is because it takes me 8 minutes to get from my house to the Domino store. Okay. Now, here at the office, unless I've got an appointment, I don't do appointments early in the morning because I don't want any of that problem there, so I can control my time here. So it's not as big of a deal. It is a big deal at Domino's because I've got a schedule, I've got to be there. And so it takes me 8 minutes to get there. So I walk out of my place 15 minutes early to make sure that I can get to the Domino's on time. Well, if someone's on their cell phone, I'm not going to be on time.
There goes.
Even though I'm leaving twice as long as it actually takes to get there, I will end up being late.
Yeah.
And so grace periods are important in recognizing that. And also stop being on the cell phones when you're on the road because you're showing disrespect to other people. And if you're the one that's sitting behind that red light or that green light stopped because you're reading a text message, you're the one that I'm yelling at because you're making me late and you're showing disrespect to other people trying to get their jobs on time. Sorry, my little rant.
You feel better?
No! God, okay. Please, no! No!
I don't know. I kind of threw this one in here, but if for some reason you're stressed, if for some reason you feel overwhelmed, and life is just, full of people on their cell phones at stoplights. It turning stop. I guess the light doesn't turn, but anyway, yeah. there might be moments that you need to de-stress. Maybe do some breathing exercises. If you notice recently on the channel, actually, I added something new. There's a new what do you call that? Playlist on Hot Potato Finance. It's called Neuro Warrior. Neuro Warrior is actually a whole lot bigger than just what that little playlist might entail. But just to kind of give a shout out, this episode is brought to you by Neuro Warrior, which is for those times when you're talking about a little bit better mental stability, mental control, self-control, and to be able to maintain those things. I don't want to use the word manipulate, but I don't know, like what's another word you can do besides the self-control? Is it manipulate?
Yeah, I mean, so Neuro Warrior, it's not a replacement for existing therapy, but it teaches you the skills, the tools that help to remap the neural pathways in the brain. And so it takes the existing crappy stuff that's there and it remaps everything to better, more controlled reactions.
Yeah.
So rather than getting immediately angry that someone is on their cell phone causing you to be 10 minutes late to work, you can, through the techniques, it will help you to remap that to be, instead of an angry reaction, a more calm reaction. And so these are skills for anger management, for anxiety, for any situation that you might come across, to be able to be more purposeful about the reactions that you give. So this is, again, not replacement for therapy, but it works really well in conjunction with it to be able to provide you the skills on an everyday basis to be able to manipulate your brain into being more relaxed.
Neurowarrior.com or .co, neurowarrior.co. .com is too expensive, so we went with .co. I think the last point is something that's kind of contradictory to this idea of punctuality or lack of punctuality, and that is a world of instant gratification. Okay, honestly, if you ordered Uber Eats, if you ordered food, and I mean, if it was delivered late, if somebody showed up an hour and a half later with your food, you would pitch a fit. Anyone would. Like, it would be the first thing you do is call that place, give them a 1-star review. How terrible was this? Why? Because your food wasn't delivered when you expected them to. Oh, you have expectations of timeliness? That's really, really weird. Now, I think part of the issue with that is that's just kind of the contrast. Okay. I wanted to bring that in to think about, like, there are other things that we want instantly and we access instantly, but yet when it comes down to the timeliness of you, like, respecting the agreement upon which you are meeting somebody or going to work, or you've committed to, some reason your timeliness matters. Why does it not matter when it's about you? And I've concluded the fact that it's because you're completely self-absorbed and selfish.
Well, all humans are selfish. I mean, we just
we think
totally about ourselves first,
right?
The number one rule of economics is that all people will do what's in their own best interest, and that's how all the economic models are built. They will not be self-sacrificing. That's not part of the economic model. That's an anomaly in the economic model, that someone will defer to someone else's interest. Cicero in De Officiis talks about these.
It's also a trauma response.
Well, yeah, but when you're talking about ethics, the 6 questions posed by Cicero, they are all about how you react yourself, with friends or relatives, and strangers. And there are differing views on how you're going to react in those situations. And so we are selfish creatures. That's just what we are. And that instant gratification has only made it worse. Mm-hmm. And we think about ourselves first and not think about someone else. it's one of those things where we want something when we want it, regardless of anyone else.
I think for me, it's agonizing when I am subject to someone else's lack of timeliness.
Yeah.
I struggle with this with my family because I have kids, and kids, they're younger, and that generation has no concept of being on time, and so when I feel like I'm responsible for getting someone school, waking up on time, that's a big part of it. Waking up on time so that they could get to school on time. I think 80% of the year last year, I got my kids to school late. That's really consistent, especially when the school reaches out to you and they're like, "Hey, I was wondering if this is like, do you have an issue with this?" I was like, "Yeah, I do. Yeah.
It's called teenagers.
Is there anything you can do with that?" I was like, "Well, unless you want to take my kids to school, like, no, but you're gonna have to get here to wake them up early enough to where they can."
Yeah.
So, like, in that sense, like that's one of the biggest, like, almost stressors. If I start my day that way, where everything is late from the get-go, it drives me nuts. It, like, almost could wreck my day, and I don't mean it, but I take it so personal when I don't think that anyone else does. It's almost offending me because I'm like, why am I taking it so personal? Like it's just one of those things that I think about. Like it literally stresses me out because I want to be somewhere on time. I have other things that I do, and I find myself compromising those things because others are not considering my time.
Well, and I think it's a two-way street. You talk about my time is important, my things are important. It's all about you.
Right.
And then you complain that someone else is doing the exact same thing. And so your things are important, your time is important. Well, this other person, their time is important to them. Their free time is important. And so if they show up late, that's okay to them, that their time to themselves was respected. And so, but you in that situation were respecting your time and what you needed to do, and not respecting them. Now, I think that's an extreme example. Now, granted,
like,
of that.
yeah, like I get it. When I said, like, I have things to do at the tail end of it, you're right. I do the same thing you do. I try not to book out my mornings so that I don't have to hustle. But on the other side of it, the commitments that they're responsible for is what they are late for. And so I'm trying to, I feel like I want them on time more than they want them on time.
Well, and I think that's the idea. It all comes down to respect. And the idea of being on time is showing respect.
Right.
Being punctual shows respect. And then giving a grace period also shows respect. The idea that, yes, you're going to be in a little bit late. I recognize that there are things that are beyond your control. I'm okay with that. And so it's these extremes that we need to avoid when it comes to punctuality. Either being too adherent to punctuality where there is no such thing as grace. So the company 1-800-CONTACTS, they will track your time to the second and punish you if you are a second late to work or a second early to work.
Well, call centers, even in between your downtime between phone calls, they track those. They track, they track how long you're on a conversation with somebody if you're helping them for too long.
Yeah.
You're like, holy cow.
So there are these extremes of punctuality, and we cannot live in that extreme. The other side is the extreme of disrespect, where you're saying, you're going to show up 2 hours late to something.
Yeah.
That can't happen. Being punctual is about that balance of respecting someone else's time, that I need to be there at a certain time, and being there. But then also it's reciprocal, saying, I respect that there are things that are out of your control. You showed up 10 minutes late. Okay, I'm okay with that. It's not great. Don't make a regular of it, but things happen. Life happens.
I think some things to do, like try planners, try having a schedule, calendars, reminders, timers, different things that, I have different alarms that go off on my phone that, during the day, during certain times that remind me of certain things that I need to do every day. My son has a work schedule that I get, and I upload it so that I know when he needs to get to work, because one, he doesn't drive, so I have to drive him to work. That doesn't make any sense. You should get a car. Anyway, but wrong order of things. He got a job first. So anyway, it's still being respectful. It's being respectful of others' time. And while, of course, consider your own time, your own personal time. Those are important. But if you don't consider someone else's time, it's pretty selfish, and you're gonna make people angry. You're gonna frustrate people, and eventually people will stop working with you. You will stop having a job. You will stop everything because they can't count on you to be punctual. And so it affects a lot of things, our perspective about timeliness and about punctuality. And I think one of the things that I would consider is part of, influencing the younger generation that I feel like is impacted by, there's a lesser sense of urgency, I guess. I would include millennials in that category, but in that sense of, or lesser sense of urgency, you have this almost near selfishness that kind of comes out from there. And you almost resent this person or animosity because of the fact that they aren't considering you in that situation. Well, on the flip side, just like you said, are you considering them?
Right.
And like, I don't want to flip that completely, because you're like, but I showed up. So yes, I am considering them because I showed up.
Right.
And so, like
mutual respect, mutual consideration. That's what it comes down to.
Yep.
If you don't show up on time or explain why you're late, getting that grace period, you are showing disrespect. And it's all about making sure that you are being respectful and respected.
Yeah.
And that's why, you get upset when someone shows up late, is because they're not respecting you. So if you want to be respected, you show respect.
Yeah.
If you want to be considered, you show consideration.
If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe and join our awesome community. It's quick, it's easy, it's just a button. That's it. And then honestly, hit the little dingy bell, because then it'll remind you whenever another episode posts. It'll give you a little, I think YouTube has like a green dot right now that informs you when it's all happening. But anyway, we have reached the end of our show. And I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, whichever one you choose. But life's too short. So keep laughing, keep learning, and remember, idiots have way more fun.
Check your shoes.